We're in Parak Yudalad, chapter 14, and we've been talking about how we can do mitzvahs when Mashiach comes in a way that's related to the Yechida, related to Atmos, so that even though we say when Mashiach comes, we're going to be able to do all the mitzvahs again, obviously the mitzvahs are going to be done on a much higher level. So we were talking so far in this chapter about what is the Yechida of Torah, and this whole concept of doing the mitzvahs on this level of doing it for Hashem, basically. So we talked about what Torah's Chassidus was really about, what the Shita of the Rambam in terms of creation and creation. What's the point of a person? What are we supposed to do? And that now we are up to this section here where the heading is Ein Od Milvado and the Hasidic explanation of that. So Rivki, would you like to read?
Sure. Okay. Ein Od Milvado HaPerush HaChasidi. Okay, so I'm not trying to translate that. Continuing on this this theme that we've been talking about. Kasaf Rambam Betchila Sifrei. The Rambam writes in the beginning of his sefer, Yisaid HaYisaides VaAmad HaChachmais Leida Sheyesha Matzah Rishon B'hu Mamtzi Kol HaNimtza. So the first mitzvah, right, is the foundation of all foundations and the pillar of all wisdom is to know that there is a first existence, which is the source, the creator of everything that is found, everything that exists. Shemisignan l'shainin move on from the wording, from the style of his language, we understand Shakadosh Baruch Hu mitzias, the kol shar hanivram af he mitzias kayemas. So Hashem is a real existence. He exists, and everything else is not. It sounds like everything else also exists. Yes, there's Hashem, and then he is the source for everything that exists. So there's other things besides Hashem, so to speak, even though their source is Hashem. אלא שמם שחרמב"ם מבאר שמציאוסה של הקדוש ברוך הוא היא מציאוס אמיתיס יסר ממציאוסם של כל שאר הנמצאים. So from the Rambam goes on to explain that the existence of Hashem is the true existence, is more true than the existence of everything else. O bilshani shel Rambam shakadosh baruch hu matzai emes. In the language of the Rambam, Hashem is the true existence. Because Hashem's existence does not depend on anyone else. One second. So he has to be, so to speak. Is that what it's saying? His existence is like a fact that has to be
like obligatory, right? Everything else could exist or could not exist, but Hashem is the one true existence and the only one that has to exist.
The ilu shar nevram him bevchinas efshari hametzias, whereas all the other creations are possible, like just they can be possible existences because their existence depends on the existence of Hashem, and it could have been that Hashem wouldn't even create them. So they're like optional, and Hashem is the only one that's
must be.
What's the word?
That must be, right?
That must be. Okay. U'v'derech zeh mevar harambam es hapasuk Hashem hu elikim ein od milvado. And in this way, the Rambam explains the pasuk. Hashem is God. There's nothing besides Him. Shakavana hi ein od matzai milvado k'maisei. So what does it mean there's no one else? We see there's so many other people. So, and so many other things. So he says the meaning here is that there's nothing that's like him, meaning there's no other gods, for example, there's no other power, there's nothing like him. So the Rambam doesn't, explain this literally, that there's literally nothing besides Hashem, because there are other things that are found besides for him. But their existence is not true as Hashem, in the way that Hashem's existence is true. And therefore there's no one like him. So Admar Hazaken, okay, so that's what the Rambam seems to be saying. Admar Hazaken mefarish as a pasuk Ein Od Milvado ba'ofen amak yaser. But the Alter Rebbe explains this pasuk of there's no one besides him in a deeper way. Not only there's no one like him, but literally there's no one besides him. That it's still, he is still the only existence alone, the way he was before he created the world, when he was literally alone. And even though after the creation we see a world that seems to exist outside of him, nevertheless he's really still the only one, because everything is like not counted, is considered like not, like nothing, like one, like zero, that literally doesn't exist. And then he, as it's explained in the teachings of Chassidus at length, why the whole world is considered as nothing, as not existing, and as nothing, and literal not before Hashem. Devorah and Rifki, thank you so much for being here. So what's the root, the source for these words? We brought the words of the Alter Rebbe. Shedivrei Harambam, huva le'el divrei Adam Arzakin. Shedivrei Harambam behilchas Yisodei Torah misyachsim lakadosh baruch hu kifu shehu mislabesh b'sfiras datzilas. So we brought the words of the Alter Rebbe. We already said this, that the words of the Rambam in the foundation, in the halachas of the foundations of Torah, are referring to Hashem, the way he's enclosed in the sphere of Atzilus. V'hine hasfiras Atzilus hin b'fchinas mitzias. And in the world of Atzilus, the spheres of Atzilus, they're on the level of existence. Uvulshani shel Rambam, in the language of the Rambam, she'akadosh baruch hu matzoi rishon, that Hashem is the first one that's found. And in the, like, for the spheres in the world of Atzilus, the creations are still considered an important existence. Am I, like, I don't know if this is, I just always thought like Atzilus is so batal that, but I guess it has an existence that's batal.
That's right. It's the beginning of Seder Hishtalshelus, so there is existence.
So there is still an existence that's batal to Hashem. And therefore, he explains this pasuk of there's no one besides him to mean there's no one like him. But if we look from the point of view right above Atzilus, to the crown above it, which is the nothingness, which is above existence. So if we look above the creation of the worlds, including the world of Atzilus, then literally the worlds are like nothing. They don't count. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe explains Ein Od Milvado to mean that that Hashem exists alone exactly the way he existed alone before the creation of the world. And therefore, on the level of Kesser is called the only one of the world. That Hashem is the only one, because on this level of Hashem's crown, he's indeed the only.
So,
Okay.
So what we're saying here is it's continuing on from what we did last time, because last time we were talking about talked about Yechida, right? And the Torah Chasidus is the Yechida of Torah. So we were showing how, for example, when the Rambam says that Hashem is the Chacham, the Mada, the Yodea, the right, the Seichel, all of it together, and the idea that when you say, how can you define Hashem in any way? So we explained that in all of those ways, we're talking about this difference between the Rambam referring to the world already. So yeah, you can call Hashem the source of Chachma and Chachma El Yaina, but you're talking about the world of Atzilus. Higher than that is Asmos, where you can't call Hashem by anything because he's much higher than all of that. So we're seeing how this thread comes through in many different areas. It's not just about calling Hashem a Chacham, not a Chacham, but even in these very simple psukim, Ein Od Milvado, that when we learn Tanya, we say, of course, Ein Od Milvado, there's nothing else aside from Hashem, like everything is Hashem, right? But what we have to recognize is when we say that, when the Alter Rebbe is saying that, it's because Chasidus is that coming from Atmos. It's the Kesser. It's above Seder Shtalshlus. It's Yechida. So we're referring to Hashem as he is above Seder Shtalshlus, where there's nothing else aside from Hashem, because we're taught all to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because Hashem is giving us all our existence. But on the level of halacha, on the level of what we see in the Rambam, we're talking about the world as it is, as we see it, a world that has already started to exist, and there, Ein Od Milvado is there's nothing else, there's nothing like Hashem amongst existence, but there are other things that exist. You see? So we're just continuing. That's why we say my inyan le'inyan ba'isa inyan. We're really following that same theme as we keep going along.
Right, and I guess so this language of Yechida Shel Olam is connected to this level of Yechida, which is which is above all of creation, right. Now, since man is created in the image of God, like we said before, the details, right? Every single one of our powers, our soul powers, were created similar to the levels above, and they're they're like matching them, right? They're
corresponding to them.
So the nature of a person is to feel himself as a true lasting existence, and he doesn't feel himself that he's nothing. So is that saying, because just like Hashem is a true yesh, so we feel ourselves as a yesh, even though
no, because we said that our kaichais come from the Esher spheres, right? So our kaichais are reflected in Seder Shtalshlus, right? In those spheres. So why we feel ourselves as a yesh kaimis? Because that's how it is within the spheres. Yeah, there are existences.
It feels like that.
Is the source of all the existences, and then there are these other things that are created, right? That's what Seder Shtalshlus.
So if we're talking about like our 10 soul powers, we feel ourselves as actually existing. V'gam sichla shel adam. Sorry, maybe that was talking about the midas, and also the intellect of a person, and mechaven connected spheres chabad shabbat silas and miskasher itan, which are corresponding to the spheres chabad in Atzilus and connected to them. Afhu margishes atzin the mitzias kayemes. Our intellect also feels as a true lasting existence, because it's corresponding to the Chabad and Atzilus, which also feels itself as a creation, as a like something that exists. And therefore, if we only think according to our like with our intellect, from the perspective of intellect alone, even if no matter how high our understanding would be, he cannot reach that recognition, that true recognition that the entire world and everything in it is actually nothing. Only from the perspective, from the place of our yechida, which is corresponding to the level of Hashem being the only one, which is Hua Keser, which is the level of Keser Shemi Al Kila spheres, above all the 10 spheres. Hu b'fchinas ayin, he b'fchinas ayin. So only our yechida can feel this nothingness. And from the yechida, a Jew comes to recognize that he and the entire world is not an important existence. And that Hashem is literally the only existence. So, again, right, that the only way, like through our midas or through our seichel, we're never going to come to real bittul, to really feeling that we don't exist, and the only one is Hashem. It's only that recognition comes only from yechida.
Exactly.
So it's not something that we come to through a lot of learning. It's something just within us that we need to reveal.
Right.
Actually, learning probably could do the opposite. Like a lot of not necessarily, but depending on the type of learning, there's
right.
that's learning.
That's right. Learning itself can make people sometimes more distance from Hashem, depending on what the learning does to them. But this leads us into the whole concept of bittul, and we know that in Chassidus, bittul is a huge thing. And why? And why then Taras Chassidus we can now understand, right? How bittul is coming into it, and why bittul is something that the more you learn, the more Chassidus you learn, the more bittul you have. Versus in other areas, the more you learn, not necessarily to become more humble because of what you're learning.
Yeah.
Rifki?
Rifki Glasman, take it away.
She here? She's here. Is she here?
Rifki, are you able to read now? Maybe she can't talk now.
Okay, so let's just do this one little part. Okay, so bittul. From this, we now come to this very foundational concept in Chassidus, and that is bittul. כלומר, שתרסה חסידס מבאר שכל היהדות, כל התורה בתוסיה, מיוסדים על הנקודה אחת ויחידה, הביטול הקדוש ברוך הוא. So according to Tars Chassidus, this is something that's stressed a lot. We explain that all of Yiddishkeit and all of Torah mitzvahs is all based on the one point, the one and only point, and that is to be nullified to Hashem. Lefi shetzad hakdusha eino el hashra v'hamshacha mikdusha shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because kedusha, holiness, is just drawing down from the kedusha of Hashem. Ve'eina HaKadosh Baruch Hu shura el adavar shabatel etlo yisbarach. And where does Hashem rest? Only on something that's nullified to him. Like the famous story of the little, they say, when the question of where is Hashem, and the answer is wherever you let him in, right? Wherever you make space for Hashem. So Hashem can only rest where there's bittul. Ki kol metzias acheres mahava stira le'emes elokis she'ein od milvado. V'chul kam klei chashiv. Because any other existence will then create a contradiction to the true existence of Hashem, where we said there's nothing else aside from him, and everything else considered as nothing. So anything that considers itself a metzias is going to be blocking that. L'chein habittul nasa b'taras hachassidus milas mafteach levar es mashmasa shakol inyan shebkedusha. And that's why this whole concept of bittul is something that in Chassidus becomes the key to explain anything to do with kedusha is going to come back and be related to bittul. V'lochein habittul nasid. Sorry, v'tarsa Chassidus. So Tarsa Chassidus really takes apart this idea of bittul and finds level after level after level within the whole idea. There's bittul hayesh, right? The bittul of a yesh, of like ego, bittul b'metzias, to being nullified in the existence, bittul the ein, or bittul the efes. So there are all these different levels of bittul. ובדרך זה מבאר אדמו"ר הזקן את משמעותו של סדר השתלשלות העולמית המבואר בספרי קבלה. Now, in this way, the Alter Rebbe explains the meaning when we talk about Seder Shtalshlus in the world that's explained in Kabbalah. Al pi haklal hanal shekul kamikle chashiv, based on this principle that everything is considered like nothing for Hashem. Lefichach kol mel shehu yosef kami. Therefore, everything, the more something seems to exist, Klemer darger el yoin yosef v'Seder Shtalshlus hakreva yosef l'mukayra el yoin. In other words, the higher something is in Seder Shtalshlus, the closer it is to its source. In other words, the more it's going to feel the truth of Hashem. And therefore, it's going to feel itself more as if it's nothing, right? Because the closer it is to the source, the more it realizes that it depends on that source, and it's like nothing. So therefore, each one of these things that we kind of think, oh, that we can lump it all together, really there's nuances in it, and each one is a little bit different. So in the world of Bria, it's bittul hayesh. In other words, there's a feeling that there is a yesh, there's an existence. That's what Bria is, beginning of creation. And there they say, okay, there's a yesh, but there's a bittul nullification of that yesh. In Olam Hatzilus, where it's not a feeling of an entity at all, but there's a metzius, right? There's less ego, just about an existence, not that it seems itself that it's a separate existence, right? That's the idea of Atzilus that feels very close to Hashem, but it's an existence. Even if it's not separate, it's an existence. And therefore, there, the bittul is bittul b'metzius, that there's a nullification, even if it's metzius. And then when you get high in the level of Kester, it's not about a yage, it's not about a metzius, it's even higher than that, the bechina of Ein Efetz, it's like nothing at all. And it's for this reason, when the Alter Rebbe wants to come and give us the parameters of what is a Jew, Klemer, b'ma ha-Yehudi, kol Yehudi b'asher hu, b'chol matav b'hu nimtza, shayna min ha-gai. When the Alter Rebbe wants to define a Jew, what is a Jew? In other words, what is it about a Jewish person in every situation, no matter where he is, how is he different from someone who is not a Jew? And then because of that quality, that he merits to be close to Hashem. What is it? What is that quality that makes Jews unique? It's this quality that we have a kayach to be completely nullified in relation to Hashem, in a level of literally being able to give up our lives al Kiddush Hashem. In other words, a Jew has a nature that is different to any other creation. Because the nature of every creation is to feel its existence, to feel its nature, to feel the fact that it exists. But a Jew, so a Jew, what is our nature really? Our nature coming from our essence is that we are drawn to connect to Hashem and to be completely incorporated with the Kadosh Baruch Hu in a way that there's a bittul of our existence altogether. And as the Alter Rebbe brings as evidence, Shafilu Kal Shabakalim, L'Paishi Yisrael, Maisrim Nashma Kedushas Hashem Al Haroim, Belishim Taino Maina, Gilu Davashi Ef Shaklal. What does Alter Rebbe use as evidence of this point? Is that we see that Jews, even Kal Shabakalim, even those who don't know a lot, even those who may have not been those who kept Torah mitzvahs, they were Paishi Yisrael. But at the end of the day, when push came to shove, they gave up their life like Kedushas Hashem without any reason. because it was as if there was something that they could not do otherwise. So at the end of the day, there's that, we call it the pitlayit, right? The part of us that cannot allow us to separate from Hashem. Well, and in this way, the Alter Rebbe also explains this is really the whole meaning of mitzvahs. The whole point of mitzvahs is first and foremost to express the nullification of ourself, of our ratzon in the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That we do mitzvahs in a way of a servant. Not because we want to, not because we have a rust in it, just because we know this is what Hashem wants, so we do it. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe stresses, and therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, what is the proper way to approach doing a mitzvah? Is to do it in this way of bittul. Just to do it with bittul, not because you're enjoying it, not because you're understanding it, not because you have some sort of tremendous tainug in it, just because from bittul, because like you're an eved, you're doing what Hashem wants. You nullify your own will and your own desire in the face of the desire of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And tzedakah, when we fulfill mitzvahs in this manner, then the mitzvah really gets its true meaning, right? It's done for in the way that Hashem intended. It's the same thing. This is supposed to be our approach to learning Torah. That you put aside our intellect, and you nullify your own intellect and your own understanding in the face of the seichel of Hashem, which is the Torah itself. And this way, all of Yiddishkeit is explained based according to Chassidus in this manner of bittul. That Torah mitzvahs is all about how we come to nullify ourselves, our desires, our seichel, our midos, right, the etc., in the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the whole point of what the Yechidah is about, to bring us to that feeling that really Hashem is everything, and we are here just to connect to Him and think less of ourselves and more of the Eibishter. And I think we'll finish here for tonight.
Thank you so much, Sara. And
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, for we should